Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm
heard
good.
you're at the lake.
I am. I'm at the lake. We're recording this right before 4th of July, so it'll come out after that. But we always come here every week, and it's been good, although it's getting ready to get bad weather tonight and then the next 2 days. So that part's kind of a bummer. But we've had a good couple of days and got to hang out with Adam's mom, which is always nice. So it's been good.
Yeah, I really liked her. I think her and I could be friends, too.
Yes, she's hilarious, Emily. She is so funny. She was tired yesterday. And she said, I think it's because I'm 75, but I think I can do everything I could do when I was 64. And she said, I just mentally I can, and physically I just can't. And she said, it just is pissing me off.
That's so cute. Yeah, I know we could be friends then, for sure.
Yeah, she's so funny. What are you guys doing? You're in Texas now, right?
I'm in Texas. We did a couple of days of filming for our new surprise that we're going to announce later on. And then I was actually on 2 podcasts today. I'm not really sure how that even happened or how, I just look at my calendar and it says you're a guest on Simply, which I think was a real estate investing. I better learn what the names of them were. Nice. And then best real estate advice ever or something. I don't know. So yeah.
Fun.
So did that, and then after you and I finish, we are officially on vacation. We're going to Greece, and I'm so ready. I could be going to anywhere, and I'd be happy. But I'm especially happy to be going to Greece.
I cannot wait. We're gonna have to do just one episode of the whole trip, because I just am gonna have the worst FOMO. I cannot wait to hear y'all are gonna have the best time ever. I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I will do that. I will make myself take really, really good notes so that we can share them. So one of the things you and I talked about today was talking about kind of podcasts we're listening to, books we're reading, things like that. So why don't you if you want to kick us off, what do you got going? What are you listening to lately? What are you learning?
Yep.
And
a couple things I wanted to tell you about, actually, just because we haven't got to get caught up. But after the amazing episode we had with John Addison, that has just blown up, and we were so grateful to have him on. I went back and I knew that I bought this book when we were in the Highlands, the A.L. Williams Way.
Oh, yes.
And I bought it, but then I didn't read it. And so I've been starting digging through it and making, so many notes, so many good ahas. It's thick, but it's an easy read. He's got just a lot of great scripts and advice and all kinds of great stuff in here. So I'm always trying to read back and forth between multiple books. And so I've been reading that one. I've actually been reading, we're going to have my friend, who I cannot wait for you to meet, Linda. Taylor Davis is his name. He just wrote a new book called The Parable for the Republic. And it's great.
The what? What's the name of it?
It's called The Parable for the Republic, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm saying it right. But it's a quick read, and I think he's actually sending you one. Parable for the Republic. And it's all about I read it literally in a day before yesterday. It's all about using multiplying the talents that God has given you, but he also talks about it kind of in a political way, which is great. He talks he's just amazing. And with everything going on, obviously we're in election year and all that stuff. So I just finished reading it and got so many great notes. And then I think I told you this last time, but I'm almost finished reading Gary Vee's new book, Day Trading Attention, which, by the way, I have meant to text him and I have got to, but Press needs to read this.
Oh, yes. Good point.
So many things I keep reading. I've written Press's name beside 3 things in here because I'm
oh, good.
This is right up his alley. But it's so good. It's all about how the old way, not the old way, but when we used to think of day trading and stocks and stuff like that, and now we need to think of it in capturing people's attention for our business and to gain authority and all those types of things. So The Parable for the Republic, the A.L. Williams Way, and Day Trading are the 3 books I've been kind of flipping back and forth between right now. And they're just all so good. I'm learning different stuff from each of them.
That's great. Well, I have all those. I think I bought all those A.L. Williams things too. And he really inspired me because I remember that I loved several things that A.L. Williams said. And I just remember, I think I might even have read one of his books long, long ago. So I'm going to dig mine out and read it. So, one podcast that jumped out at me that I've listened to, I'm a big person to look for things that validate points that I already believe in.
Yep.
And Gary said years ago that when you read books, it should really do two things. It should validate what you already know so that you're confident about what it is that, that you believe in, or it should totally replace it. And if it doesn't totally replace it right away, you just stop reading the book. Well, I love Robert Cialdini because I love persuasion, beholdenness, reciprocity. We have that in our formula. So he was on a podcast recently with another hero of mine, which is Joe Polish, which, by the way, Robert Cialdini, if you're listening to this, we really want you on this podcast because we talk about your books.
I'm writing this down right now.
All the time. So Joe Polish, who I really dearly care about too, was interviewing him, and I guess they've been good friends for a long time, and they really said some pretty amazing things. One of the things that he started off with was talking about, and of course, his topic is influence or persuasion. And he said, Joe said one of the things he learned from Robert years ago is that there's no relationship between being good at what you do and getting paid for it. And unless you actually know how to present, how to market, and how to message, and how to attract the right people and repel the wrong ones, it doesn't matter how good you are. And I think sometimes in the real estate business, people get hung up with feeling like they're so much better at giving great service or doing certain things. But if the world doesn't believe it, it doesn't, if you haven't persuaded the world that you are, then it doesn't do a whole lot of good.
Yep. Yeah.
And then something else that he talked about in there is, people are getting ratings and stuff these days. He said you have to be careful because people don't believe perfect. They don't believe if there's a set of scores between 4.2 and 7 and why, it's because below 4.2, you're saying maybe it's, it's not good to do. And if it's above 4.7, you're saying there may be, everybody may not be playing fairly. So if your score is like too perfect or too high, people have a hard time believing that. So I think people panic if they don't have a 5-star rating or whatever. But the truth is most people are influenced by a rating that they feel like is a fair rating.
Yep.
As long as it's not too low.
Yep. I can totally see that. Yep. Totally can see that. What podcast was that? Was it on?
This is called I Love Marketing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I listened to that.
And they just don't, they said people don't believe that no one gets all 5s.
Wow.
So, so you'll start losing credibility by implying that you have more success than you do. There's another study, he said, that actually makes his point about it. If you're able to say 9 out of 10 people positively evaluate your product, you get a lot of people who want to buy it. If you say 90%, you get even more because they feel like you're being more accurate.
Wow. Yep. I can totally see that.
If you say 89%, you're getting the most because you're obviously being sincere. You're not just rounding up to a 9 or a 10.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So you have to watch out for taking success too far.
Yep.
People are going to doubt unless you are absolutely accurate. And one of the things we make sure is that we're absolutely specific about what the number is, not rounding it up or anything like that.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense.
It's because people are being aware and careful because people are now aware of cheaters, people who are just trying to build their notoriety and their influence and their thing at the cost of anything.
I didn't share this book before because I haven't started it yet, but I'm getting ready to read this book by a gentleman of the name Adam Whitty, who owns a publishing company through Forbes, but it's called Authority Marketing. And Adam read it and said it was great. And so I'm really excited to start this. But what you just said, like what his book is how right now, like it's the true, genuine ways of gaining authority versus what you just said. So many people are buying their followers, buying their, number of views on Instagram and all that stuff. And you can tell. So therefore, what you just said makes sense, Linda, because a lot of people are knowing that there's other ways to get reviews and all that stuff now. I mean, and so they might not be the true, genuine way. And he says basically, like, he teaches you how to gain authority the true, genuine way, because so many people are doing it the let me just buy it way, and that doesn't work long term.
Yeah. So true.
Interesting.
He also talks about, not focusing on why you're famous, but what is the value you're giving.
Yep.
And focus on that. And something I've thought about a lot lately, and I don't know if I read it somewhere or heard it, but it really helps me to just look at every person I look at and just say, everyone wants to be loved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we get so busy and we just kind of miss opportunities, but everyone wants to be loved. Yeah. And if you just kind of look at everybody through those lenses, how you speak to them, what you do, everything changes. Yeah. So I've just kind of every day said, okay, everybody I meet today, everybody just wants to be loved.
That's so good. Yeah. It gives you a different mind shift about people too. Really good. Yeah, that's really good. And actually, you know what? That was what Helen said when we had her on our podcast, Blender Bombs, that the way that she even grew her followers, remember, she said every day she just woke up and posted stuff that brought value to people that, like, they wanted to know. Like, she would ask questions and then she would share the answers because everybody else wanted to know those answers. And she was just coming from a genuine, like, hey, I want to provide value way.
So one of the stories he brought up was Warren Buffett to kind of hit on this was, he said Warren Buffett is a true influencer of opinion and activity in the way that he presents himself as being truly concerned about the welfare of his stock shareholders and beyond that, the company as a whole. I saw something there that almost made me weep. If you've ever been in these meetings, they're over, oh my gosh, where'd this dog come from? There's a dog that showed up. I don't even know who that dog, we don't even have a dog.
I know. Okay. I just saw it come in the thing and I was like, whose dog is that?
I do not know. Maybe it's the neighbors. Somebody let it in. Oh, maybe it's Nick's. He's here. But anyway, he said, I saw something that almost made me weak. If you've ever been in these meetings, there are 47,000 people in an auditorium in Omaha where the Berkshire Hathaway meeting is. By the way, a single share of Berkshire Hathaway stock is worth $610,000. That's pretty amazing. There's never been anything like it in any of the markets. And one of the reasons that that's the case is not only are they amazing financial analysts, they know that the market is not made of an econometric models. It's actually made up of people. Wow. And when they send out communications, they've studied human psychology before they even do that. They are experts at communication, experts at connection, experts at giving people cues of honest information. For example, Warren Buffett, on the first page of all of his annual stockholder letters, he mentions something that went wrong. So he starts with something that went wrong. Yeah. And then he says, but you've heard that. But then he mentions the strengths. Well, now you believe the strengths because he's shown himself to be an honest person who's willing to mention the drawbacks. So that's kind of a great example of, people needing transparency and to feel like they can believe you. But there was one thing that almost made me weak. His partner, Charlie Munger, was called the brainiac of the company. Warren says that he was the architect of Berkshire Hathaway. But at these meetings, they would sit on a stage and there would be this crowd of thousands upon thousands of people. They would take questions. Warren would always take the question and take the first swing at it. And then he would turn it over to Charlie. Charlie died last year at 99 years and 11 months. He missed by 1 month turning 100. It was December, so just before the Berkshire Hathaway meetings by a couple of months. So Warren would take the questions and then he would turn it over to Charlie. So Charlie would usually answer with a single, very acerbic line that was funny. So everybody waited for that. This time, I think it was the second question. Warren got it and he finished answering. There were a couple of executives on the stage with him at Starley instead of Charlie. So he finished and he turned and he said, Charlie, the place fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Charlie was still there. 50 years later, Charlie was still in his memory and still in his psychological space. Wow. So, Charlie was there, the kind of connections that you were talking about. So he talked about, talking about connections. And this is one of the things that Robert Cialdini talked a little bit more about was the way you make connections with people is you ask their thoughts and their ideas. And I love it because it validates exactly what we've said in our formula and different things like that. But he's just talking about, the importance of the relationships and creating that, we all know nobody succeeds alone, right? Yeah. So learning to find those connections that, number one, make the whole, everything you're doing magical. And then the other is to just, and then one of the things he was asked is, how do you get those relationships? And he says, you earn them by being that best partner or being that best person. You earn those relationships by being that first. And he talked about that with Charlie and, Warren. And then he also talked about that he's been married 47 years. Wow. And he and his wife both said, that's how you get love, is by giving it. Mm-hmm. You don't worry about what you're going to get. You just give the love, and then you'll get the love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was just really, it was really powerful.
Oh, sorry. I got to tell you something. I keep meaning to tell you this, and I keep forgetting to tell you this, but one of my friends, Jill, I was talking to her, and I think maybe on one of our episodes, it might have been when we had Jimmy and Adam on. I can't remember, but no, I know when it was. It was for my 40th birthday. And one of the things lessons that you gave me, you said, like, within a relationship, like, the longer that you're in it, the sweeter it gets if you just like keep sticking. Do you remember that? Like, you just keep sticking.
Yeah.
And so one of my coaching clients and my friend Jill, she told me she's getting ready to take a new opportunity. So we had our last coaching call last week. And she said, we were just talking about like life and what she was excited to do now that she was going to be doing something different and all that. And she was talking about time with her husband. And she said, I'll never forget, one of the biggest things that Linda gave me advice-wise on the podcast was, she said, my husband and I have been married, I can't remember how many years. And she said, when Linda said, like, it just keeps getting sweeter. And she said, I looked at my husband and said, okay, like, I think we're about like to the sweet part. And I thought, I got to tell Linda that, because she said it stuck with me. She said, and anytime we start to like get on each other's nerves, I think, okay, wait a minute, we might be about to the sweet part.
Well, she can do what my friend Mary said to me years ago. She said, when you want to say something crappy, to your husband, she goes, I learned a long time ago, if you start with the word sweetie. And so we would like sometimes say sweetie with our, gnarly face. But I think the reason that works is because when you're fresh in your marriage, I remember going to counselors years ago, and I would want to complain or talk about how to fix Jimmy. And they would want to talk and fix how to fix me. And so I think what happens over time is you stop expecting the other person to do whatever it is, whether it's give you love, you got to give love, right? You got to give grace, and you got to let go of all the crap that doesn't matter, right? And so I think it's easier to do the longer you're together and the older you get and the wiser you get. Yeah. I think that's really hard to do when you're trying to, finagle your space out with each other.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Good advice.
That's awesome.
I can't wait to listen to that episode on I Love Marketing. I just wrote that down to go listen to.
So he talked a little bit about different forms of connection. He said, showing approval or affection and so on. See which one fits best with the person that you're trying to connect with, because not everybody's the same. People change, the audience changes, but the concept of everybody wanting to have approval or relationships or closeness or trust and so on, you can provide different forms of it. You just got to play with which one lands with that person. So it's kind of like being an experiment or trying different things out and then selecting the one that has the greatest resonance with the people that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Love that.
And then he asked him, he said, what about fear? What if someone's scared? What if someone's worried about rejection? He said, what if they're not quite there yet? How do you deal with fear? And I thought it was kind of interesting because I think sometimes we think we're the only ones with fear, but he talked about how he didn't write his book soon enough, and it was all because fear. He thought he wasn't ready or whatever. But he talks about this in the case of approaching someone that you want to build a relationship with. So if you've been afraid to approach someone or say something, someone's utilizing the methods that you have taught so well on and you kind of are like, oh my God, you don't want to be offensive, but you want a relationship with a person, but you also don't want to get rejected. He said, how do you do that? He said, but give yourself a starting gun. And in other words, the main thing he said, he's trying to remember who Mel Robbins was. And he said, there's this lady that says 3, 2, 1. And Joe says, no, I think it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He goes, well, no, do 3, 2, 1. You'll have a 2-second jump on her. But he just says, give yourself a starting gun to just do it. Go ahead and, whether it's a customer you're trying to get or a person that you feel like is accomplished more than you. He said, you just give yourself a start date and make yourself approach that relationship that you want to have.
Love that with anything though. Like I've done that before. If I know I really need to get on something, I'll be like, okay, I'm on August 1st. Like I'm starting no matter how prepared I am or what I'm doing, just because what do we always say? Like action gets you into something. I can't think of it. I'm blank right now, but just like getting into action with something.
Yeah, well, activity, I always say activity breeds activity. So if you want something started, get started doing something. So he said of something interesting. They talked a little bit about what if you want someone to change? What's a symbol that you can use to help people feel a little more comfortable to change? And he said a sunrise.
Oh.
So if you think about it, a sunrise is a brand new day.
Yeah.
So I don't think he dove into that a lot. I wish he'd gone into a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
You can put that in your PowerPoint decks. You can put it in your subject lines. But if you're wanting people to be okay with change, which I just got recently asked to talk to an industry that feels like they've been through a lot of change, I'm going to remember that and put that sunrise on there.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.